pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, call to order and establish quorum. Call a quorum, I guess.
Jaggers.
Present.
Palmer.
Present.
Wallstad.
Here.
Yates.
Here.
Pettit.
Here. Item 3, presentation discussion by Troy Rhodes and Stan Lingo to provide an update on BPS construction projects and outline financial amendments needed for the ongoing construction project.
So I'm in the back row, so I'll just stand up. How's that? Is that all right? So Stan's not here today. Heath is here. If there are questions, he's going to give us an update on just kind of progress. In terms of the financial update, we've had a couple of months where we've not been at the meetings to kind of go through some change orders. If you might recall, maybe 3 meetings ago or so, we had one change order that was approved, and then we had some potential changes that were pending. We had a change order that was approved with a cap, but we were still working on some numbers related to drainage. So today, it's really just kind of some formalization of that process in terms of changing the contract amount, which has to flow formally through the board. So there's a couple of items that are kind of wrapped up into change order 2. There's actually 3 items wrapped up into change order 2. Some of these have been kind of, I guess we'll say, informally approved as we've gone, and in many cases the work's already done because of the timing related to the need to get work done versus the coordination of these meetings. So change order number 2 is $11,044,044.54, excuse me. That wraps up PCO, or potential change order number 1, for 150154, which adds some shelving into A107 that was requested by the school. PCO number 2, which is $7,718.39, which had to do with the switching from a tank water heater to a tankless water heater system. PCO number 7 is $1,824.61, and that was a requested additional sink in one of the science spaces, as well as some wall modifications related to the office down in the common area. So that's change order number 2. Change order number 3, and again, this was just the reason they're broken up like this is just the organization and some of the timing of the changes. We talked about, this is the one where we talked about doing kind of a belt and suspender approach. I don't know if you guys remember that, it's been a little while. But we felt like in the process of construction, let's go ahead and do the belt. First, we've done the belt, and we've kind of held off on the suspenders. So the French drain is the suspenders. That's the kind of the redundancy. But the flumes that were built have really significantly made a huge impact on the way that the drainage is being taken care of. So we've kind of got a team sense, meaning our office and the contractor lingo, that maybe the French drain isn't necessary, and it has an expense associated with it of somewhere between $18,000 and $21,000, $22,000, and so we thought, let's just hold off on that. If there seems to be an issue, then we can always come back and add it, but it just seemed like maybe a better way to approach it. So change order 3 is for a total of $22,312.71. That does include the 2 additional concrete drains for $47.95. That does include the roof drain rerouting. So that is internal piping connections up above the attic space that connect to some of the old drains that we didn't know until we ripped everything apart where all the piping was. And so there was some cost involved with rerouting the roof drains. That's $11,682.71. Then we have PCO number 9, which is essentially injecting structural foam underneath the slab. Remember, we had to do some slab work investigation to try to find out if there was any additional water erosion, maybe I guess is the right way to say it, under the slab. So that had a cost of $58.35. So that's kind of change order 3 wrapped up into that 22,000 number. The only additional change order that's been discussed that I'm aware of is one that could be done now, could be done later. It's not anything that has been done at this point, but it is a request about adding LVT, which is similar to the flooring material you're looking at above below us, but different style. adding LVT and rubber base in the student council room, which I think right now is a carpet we've had to kind of build up against, and I think there's been some challenge in terms of keeping that carpet clean. I think maybe I think the guys have done a good job in terms of doing the best they can with the materials there are, but it's adjacent to some of the construction. And so there was a number, somebody asked about what it would take to redo the flooring in that room, flooring and the base that goes around, and that number is $8,995. So that would be something that you could decide to do now if you wanted to, or we can just put that off and do it at another date at your leisure. So that's kind of the update from a change order financial side of things. So formally, the 2 change orders do need to be approved by the board if you guys are in agreement with those numbers. Heath, do you want to give an update maybe based on just kind of timing and where you guys are and kind of schedule anticipated over the next few weeks?
Yep, right now, obviously you can see we're still working, sorry for the mess, but we are scheduled this Friday for Lingo to do a punch, which is we'll walk through the space, see any items that are outstanding, get those done within the week, and then we'll have an owner architect punch the following Thursday, October 12th. And that way, a second set of eyes can go through and see if we're missing any outstanding items, flaws, or any nicks or dings in materials. But as of right now, we're on track for all that, and to hand the keys back over to you at fall break, Friday fall break, which I think is the 20th. There are some outstanding. We probably will do those concrete flumes during fall break or the week before. We're trying to coordinate that because we got to get our dumpsters and our Connex out of the way so that the landscape crew can have a open space instead of all that clutter there. So we're gonna lay LVT tomorrow in the bathroom area, and we'll just have some small subcontractors just finishing out their job. So moving right along.
I would just say thank you to both of you for working with us as we've gotten into school, and really done a great job of trying to minimize the space that your workers have utilized for our good. Mr. Jewell, I know, appreciates that, and just been great to work with along the way. So appreciate everything you've done in that capacity. Would be my recommendation to approve all the change orders. Of course, the potential change is a little bit more choice, but my thought would be to finish out the project, and it would finish out that project to complete that flooring as well, instead of having it look a little bit messy, as you will, with that flooring as it currently is. So that would be my recommendation. But
one question I have is we made the move to go from a water heater to a tankless. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the change order, what was that thought about?
The original plans called for a tank type water heater, traditional tank type water heater to be located. It ended up being located above the electrical closet, and it just didn't make sense to do that in terms of the engineering planning. And so we looked at different options to find a different home for that tank water heater. With limited space in that restroom area, the best option that we found had enough room for a tankless, which is a smaller footprint in a small little, almost like a closet, well, hardly a closet. It's about 8 inches deep and about 30 inches wide or so, has a small door on it. But it was in an effort to try to find the right place for a water heater that would not cause problems with the electrical systems if there was a failure. And so, but in order to do that, we had to go with the tankless system, which is a more expensive system.
Right, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where are the 2 concrete drainage flumes? Where are they located?
So they're out in the lawn area immediately west of these classrooms that are right outside of here. So we had, if I'm not mistaken, correct me guys, but I think we had 2 that were originally in the drawings, and then when we kind of when we started tearing into things and realized how the roof drain structure worked, once we tore out some of the existing roof and wall materials, we felt like we needed to add additional flumes. So what was happening is water was draining off the roof, coming down and getting into that grassy area, that kind of open courtyard grassy area there. And what we discovered is that the ground, the earth, was actually sloping toward the building instead of sloping toward the parking lot. And so the best way to deal with that water coming off the roof was to get it to the sidewalk or to the paving area as quickly as possible. So we talked, I'm gonna have those are the two you're waiting on.
Mm-hmm.
So the intent would be to add a flume or basically it's a trough of concrete that would allow for water to go immediately from the downspout out to the curb and not have to traverse through the grass, because the grass is what kind of directs the water back to the building. That was what was causing some of the drainage area problem, or the issues with the water in that area, and that's part of why we thought it might be best to add the French drain, because it would be an additional perimeter drain. But
In the same area.
same area.
Going.
Yes, that's right.
Going
It was
this
kind of
way?
a U-shaped French drain, so it kind of came along the edge of the new addition, along the, I guess it'd be running north-south, along the existing science classroom areas, and then back to the west along, there's another classroom bump out over there.
Yeah.
It's kind of U-shaped French drain. The reason we think that the flumes are gonna be sufficient, in order to kind of control water during construction while they had everything opened up, they actually took ADS pipe, which is basically a corrugated pipe connected to the at the bottom of the downspouts, and essentially piped on the surface water from the downspout to the parking area. That eliminated, so by getting that water directly to the parking, that eliminated that saturation that was happening over and over and over in that grassy area. And so that's why we think by putting in the permanent flumes, that will do the same thing as the ADS corrugated pipe, just more of a permanent solution rather than the temporary black giant, they're about 6 or 8 inch pipes kind of strung along the grass, but those are a temporary solution to keep the water out of that area.
So I guess it's possible then, if there was still a problem after everything's done, to come back in and put a French drain. It's
There
not
is,
that
yeah.
big of a deal.
Yeah, it's like I think we had 6 different subcontractor pricing scenarios. We've been studying this and looking at this for probably 4 months, just on back and forth trying to find the best solution for this pump and system. And every price we get, the least expensive one is around $18,000 right now. And we feel like it's the kind of thing that could be added down the road and not create additional expense. I mean, depending on how far down the road, I guess if it's 5 years down the road, it might be more than $18,000.
Right.
Pricing inflation the way it is these days. But I just think, I think the experience of watching that water go away from the site through those pipes and eventually be replaced with those flumes, the thought is that we're not going to have the kind of problems we've had in the past, because we're not dumping water directly from the roof down into that grass.
Okay.
And then doing the flooring in the stucco room will that push any of the project back further, or?
Timing wise?
No, we're just gonna have them scheduled if we get the green light to do it over fall break as well.
Okay.
It'll be a day and a half worth of work, so.
Other questions? I have a motion.
Motion to approve item 3 as presented.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Bolstad.
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes. Item 4, presentation and discussion by Alvin Myers from United Systems in regard to new cybersecurity components that have been put in place.
Hello, good evening, board and administrators and the teachers and patrons here as well. Good evening, and if I can bother you to turn this way, I hope that'll be all right. I'll try to stay out of the way somewhere here. Sorry. Just, try to make it where everybody can see. Hey, how you doing? So, you guys good? Yeah. You know what? I can actually go. Right over here. We'll try this. I want to stay out everybody's way. Thank you for the opportunity to come and present about our technology support agreement that we've had in place for several years with the district, but we've made a few changes and improvements this year, and thought that with the changes around the district that maybe it'd be good to just review them with you. I haven't done that before. I am President and Chief Operating Officer of United Systems. I'll put that slide up. And there's nothing real important about me. I just want you to know that I have a background in technology and have been doing it since '84. So a really long time. Have spent time in K-12 education leading technology operations, and also both internally within a larger school district, and then also externally working with hundreds of school districts as well, and have also done that in the commercial world as well, so kind of a balance there. I also am a member of a national peer group, and the reason I mention that is because that type of group helps me stay up to speed on the latest and greatest with technology, and also the threats that are out there, so that we can help you have the best options at your fingertips. And I'm also a member of a bank board, and the reason I mention that is because, as you might guess, the financial institutions are appropriately ultra paranoid about cybersecurity these days, and so get a lot of good exposure and information there with that organization. I've been at United Systems since 2000, and United Systems has been around since '84. So United Systems actually was founded the year that I started professionally in IT, and we're full end-to-end solutions provider, so project support, everything that an organization needs from a technical standpoint. And we really it's been about 2 to 3 years ago that we expanded our cybersecurity focus, somewhere in that time frame, as things started to uptick significantly. And we've been involved in both successful defense and recovery efforts from cybersecurity attacks. In one instance, an entity that we weren't working with yet got hit, actually had to pay a significant amount of ransom, invoked their cybersecurity insurance, and we entered the game at that point and started working with the experts that the cybersecurity insurance company brought in, and then helped them after that, help them recover, and also have a support agreement in place today with them that is much like what you have, and that is a commercial entity. And then we've also been involved in helping some of our customers who made mistakes recover without a lot of fanfare from an attack. And the one thing that I would tell you is that we can't put enough technology in place to prevent a human error. We just can't do it. And so what we try to do is put every piece in place. We put layers in place to put protections out there, and then we try to share information that will help people be more safe in their online behavior, because if you click on the wrong link, you're going to let the bad guy in. And so we have to be able to try to prevent them from going too deep, and then be able to help you recover as well. 70% of our customers are K-12 education, and our slogan is relationships through service, because we believe that great service builds great relationships. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about what is happening in technology, in the landscape of technology, what's happening here, what managed services is, which if you look at our agreement, it'll say United Complete, and that's our identification of a managed services support agreement. So I'll talk about what managed services means. I'll talk about the cyber protections that are available, what technical expertise comes with our agreement, and then a few financial comparisons last year to this year. If you watch the news, and if you're involved in technology in any way, you probably know that it is becoming more complex every day. And with complexity comes risk as well. And it's also more difficult than ever, even for us, to hire and retain good technical people. It's just, there's a little bit of a void. It's been that way since COVID. We've had a lot of people exiting the workforce, and then with the uptick in the complexities of technology plus cybersecurity, it's kind of drained the pool. So it's become more expensive and difficult. The cyber risks are escalating every day. And I presume that you guys hear about that in the news a little bit, and even, you know, we've had some local education entities that have been hit too. And then I don't think it's any surprise that not only your organization but all organizations have become more dependent on technology to do what you do, and what we call the connected world. It makes it much more difficult to pinpoint the things that may create a problem in the environment, and so having the right tools and things to troubleshoot those challenges that may come your way is very important. School safety, and this is one thing that's happened here, is that school safety can be improved with technology. The system that you have that has the analytics built into it so that you can easily search different parameters, and you know, if an event happens, that you can maybe identify a person that was close to that event, where they've gone after that and so forth. Technology makes that possible. And you know, the biggest thing for me is that the technology has to be reliable for organizations to be successful. I don't think that's any secret to anybody. Please, if you have any questions, I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible so I don't bore you guys to death, but if you have any questions, just stop me, and it's very informal from my standpoint. So obviously Bethany has made a significant investment in technology and utilization of technology. And the reason I mention utilization is there's a lot of folks that will buy or spend money on technology, but putting it to good use, especially for teaching students and allowing educators to have the tools that they need to be successful with the students, that doesn't always happen. And I have seen that over the years. We started working, well, I personally started working with Bethany in the late 90s, prior to coming to United Systems. And so I've seen that adoption of technology within the Bethany school district, and seen how well it has been utilized. It's not something that just gets purchased and set on the shelf. The one-to-one connected learning platform does require reliability and performance, and I think, you know, in the early days, as the district was trying to pilot some of that technology, it was more difficult. There were things that didn't just work as well, and then we found the weaknesses in the network too that needed to be improved so that it did work better. High-speed internet, you know, you can get a really fast connection to the outside of the building, but if that's not carried throughout the rest of the building, then you really aren't making any progress. And that's something that we've worked on year after year to make sure that all the different links within the building are correct in order to carry that performance throughout, and to make sure that they're also reliable. There's been a lot of changes that have been required, especially with the construction and so forth that have taken place, and with the age of the buildings and the way that they were built over time, you know, there were different challenges with that. Students and staff also have to be protected from the cyber threats that come along with these connected environments. And then there are some federal regulations out there, like the Child Internet Protection Act. And the E-rate money that you guys get, is everybody familiar with the term E-rate, the funding that provides internet connectivity and also some of the network connectivity. So there is a regulation within that funding source that says that you have to protect children from seeing inappropriate material. That's the Child Internet Protection Act. And so there are measures that are in place for that. And if that's found not to be in place, then they can pull that money from you. So it's a really important item to make sure it's checked off the list. And you guys are in good shape with that. So don't worry about that, but that's one of the things that you have to pay attention to. And then, of course, critical communication systems, security systems, and administrative systems also depend on that reliability and the high performance speed of the network. And so there's a lot of other great things going on here with instruction and technology, but those are some of the high points that will relate to our agreements and the things we do. Any questions so far? So what is managed services? Really, it's the way to address these challenges of the technology landscape in a cost-effective manner. And the way that I like to say it simply is it's the support that you need when and how you need it. And so rather than having a continuous effort towards technology support, you need the right person when you need them in the right place, right? So that's what managed services is in a nutshell. It's not outsourcing or prepaid services, because that would just be, if we were just going to put a body in here, then I would have to take what I pay that body and I would have to mark it up a certain amount for us to be profitable. So it would be more cost effective for an organization to essentially hire their own person. Instead, we mix tools, automation, and people in order to provide a more cost-effective solution and to make sure that you get a better quality of service and some proactive capabilities as well. It is fixed cost and is typically less expensive than hiring the staff required to support the environment. If you can imagine that you have workstations, you have servers, you have networks, you have firewalls, you have the video surveillance, the access control, all these things require a different type of expertise. So we have 41 people, and what you get is you get a piece of any one of them when you need it, if that makes sense, rather than trying to hire an army of technology experts to be on staff. It is delivered by a managed services provider like United Systems, and it shifts the responsibility from you to me in this case. So I'm saying, you don't worry about your technology. I'll make sure, and when I say my company, because I don't do much. My staff does all the heavy lifting, but that shifts the responsibility from the school to us as United Systems to make sure it's reliable and performing correctly. Any questions there? So the benefits are, again, a firm fixed monthly cost that covers everything that has been selected on the agreement, and it helps protect against the unbudgeted surprises that can come along with technology. The broad spectrum of technical experts, we kind of mentioned that. So fewer technical issues arise because we're taking proactive steps to make sure the technology is in better shape. So there's things, I mentioned automation earlier, there's things that we are doing from our help desk on a minute-by-minute basis to make sure that updates and patches and things like that are in this environment and keeping things running well. And then there's certain alerts that we will get and we will investigate without anybody even knowing anything might be going wrong. So those are the kind of things that we're doing behind the scenes proactively. It It does remove the challenges associated with hiring, retaining, and training IT staff, it's never been more difficult. It's never been more difficult. A superintendent the other day told me that he was just tired of being a training ground, because he would hire somebody that was pretty good, they'd come in, they'd get training certification, and then they would get a 50% pay increase offer and they would leave. And so all that investment, you know, he lost it. So this is a way to protect against that. And then quicker resolution to issues when they arise. Whoops. You also get access to the latest technical tools for the environment at a fraction of the cost to buy them yourself, and that can benefit. So Adam and his team have access to the same tools that we utilize internally if they want them, and sometimes that's helpful because it's remote access type tools and things like that. So they, you know, anybody in the district can have that same access. It's probably most appropriate for only certain folks, you know, but anyone can have access to those same tools that we're using in your environment. It does integrate the cybersecurity protection and also data protection and disaster recovery. That's one of the key pieces that if there were a successful attack because of a human error, that we have data backed up and have a way to get it back quickly in that type of an event. And that's, you know, that's one of our ironclad protections against that type of a thing happening. And then we also provide advisement for technology decisions, and what we like to say is we provide the ability for the school to focus on what you guys do best, and that's empowering educators to lead students in learning. We know that's the goal, and so if we can make everything work well, then hopefully educators have the ability to do that. These are just some of the cyber protections that are built in to what you have in your agreement. Some of it may seem Greek, but I mentioned the system patches and updates, and that's really just a base level thing that needs to be in place to make sure that no known threats are easily allowed into the environment. So endpoint detection response, that is the if you think about antivirus and anti-malware, if you've heard those terminologies before, you may have those on personal computers and things. So this endpoint detection response is the next generation of that. It not only uses the same things that antivirus and anti-malware do, but it also watches systems for behavioral characteristics, because we now know what the bad guys do when they get into a system. So this technology watches for those things, and if it sees a system start to have that happen on it, it shuts it off, disconnects it from the rest of the network, so that it can't get into other parts of the district, and then it sends us an alert so we can remediate. So that's a very important piece of the protection. We've already talked about the managed backup and disaster recovery, but it's also multi-tier. So you not only have a backup here, but you have it off-site in our disaster-resistant data center in another location, so that you don't have to worry about being able to get to it. If a natural disaster were to hit this facility, then you still have your data backed up elsewhere. Some of these other things may not be completely meaningful, but I do want to mention the multi-factor authentication, because what that is that's validating that you are who you are logging into your system. And as we've worked through these different attacks that have happened in other organizations, the experts that we've worked with have said if they had just had multi-factor authentication, this wouldn't have happened. And so that's a very important piece, and that's something that is being added with this agreement. We also work with password strength management, firewall management, and then we do security assessment periodically throughout the year to make sure that things are in good shape. Any questions about that? And I'm sorry if I'm using terminology it's not recognized. These are just the levels of technical expertise that are included. I won't necessarily go through all of those, but those are all things that you guys utilize. And then this is the financial and services comparison. So 2022, the monthly cost was $6805.96, and for 2023 it will be $7,053.14, and that's a very nominal increase. And I want to be, clear about that. So we went through some audits on your system and users and so forth, and brought down some of the quantities, because with the things that you've added and just the standard increases that have happened within the industry, the agreement could have been 15% higher than last year. But through working with the team here, going through all the different elements of the agreement, we were able to actually add more protections and keep it at a very nominal increase for this year. The highlights, those are all your covered elements there on that one bullet. And then we have added the new cybersecurity protection features, and I've already mentioned the systems and user audits to make sure that we're only covering what's necessary. And that will add more security to your environment too, because we have looked at anybody that has administrative rights to do things within your environment, and made sure that we've controlled that, for lack of a better term, to make sure that there's not any unauthorized access there.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see it on here, so I'm wondering if you do any, or have available to do any user education. Like, those people that are using our system, here's what to watch for, here's what to not click on, here's how the next attack's gonna come, just like I don't know, once every 6 months, or maybe once a quarter, or I don't know.
We have.
Do you have something like that?
Yes, ma'am. So we have in past years, and I don't know if we did it this year or not, but in past years, during professional development coming into the school year, we've done some sessions like that with the staff, and we're able and willing to do that anytime. I thought we did that this year, but I can't. Adam, do you?
Yeah, we've done it in the past. I kind of briefly went over with some of the staff about two-factor authentication with their Google accounts and stuff like that, but we need to more periodically have things like that, especially some of the.
So the answer is yes, and we try to talk to them about what the current threats are, do's and don'ts, and things like that to provide that type of information. So yes, and that's something that is no additional cost to you guys. We will do that at any time. That's part of kind of our technical advisement. With this agreement, you get technology director level services with it. So sometimes it'll be me that comes out and has strategy conversations about what to do next. And then Rich Brookhart is one of our senior level technical folks, and he comes out periodically to have meetings with the staff too. So.
Well, at where I work, we do periodic training, but it comes by way of, an email. I mean, we don't have anybody in person, but it's a little educational thing that says, takes you through what not to do, and how to keep your passwords, how to do that. I was just wondering about something like that, rather than have a person do it.
So we can certainly create something like that as well. We also have a service that we haven't implemented here yet that is kind of an email training solution. I mean, it does cost money though, so it's a little bit expensive for the number of staff that you guys have. But what it does is it sends out periodic kind of fake emails to see if they click on stuff, and if they do, they get taken into remediation. And so,
We know the same thing.
yeah,
It's a trap.
so that, I mean, that is something that we have available, and we've discussed that, and
Yeah.
you know, that may happen at some point.
Yeah.
We're willing to.
I think it's good that our users, all the users, have some kind of education on what not to do, you know, what to look for when you get a weird email that you don't see normally. And
Well, and I think with having Adam here, you know, a lot of that is facilitated by him naturally in the environment. Some of the schools that we work with don't have an Adam, and so, you know, it's a different approach.
Okay.
I'll speak to that a little bit too. I mean, we did talk about that program and
Yeah.
kind of weighed
Yeah.
the cost benefits of that for a district our size, which comparatively to a lot of districts is pretty small, whereas another bigger district might not be able to monitor as closely all the individual users. And so Mr. Forster and I just, in talking with them, just thought, one, it's gonna send out a bunch more spam looking things that, you know, it could have some benefit, but we think right now, and we could change our mind with the cost, that we could provide that training with the small
Yeah.
staff that we have and
I agree.
still meet the need, but
Yeah.
but it is out there if you ever wanna look into it.
Any other questions?
Well, on the MFA, what level are we doing that at?
So with this, we identified probably I think 25 most probably targeted, that would be highly targeted people to monitor there. So with this new system, we're enabling them to have the duo multi-factor authentication to log in their system, but we're also, what's the Sentinel-1 is the highest level of antivirus, but it'll flag it when it does hacker similar things
Right.
on the computer, like
Sure.
if it logs in at night or something like that, it'll stop it and shut it down. So we identified the most highly sensitive people around the district that have, you know, higher level access on our student information systems and things like that. But we also encouraged all the teachers to turn on their multi-factor authentication when it comes to
In their
logging in their
Google accounts.
email and things like
Right.
that. So
Okay.
I think these steps right now, I think, are good steps forward. You know, we can slowly add more things, but I think these are some good steps right now. So
Sure. Yeah, I was just curious at
yeah.
how far down you were pushing it.
Well, it's just trying to
I-
get everybody
Understanding
the
that.
new, But we're slowly getting people on board. So
You know, we looked at those that have access to confidential critical data, and because that's where the biggest risk is. So.
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions on those? Have a motion.
I move approval of item 4 as discussed.
Second.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Wallstad,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 5.
Thank
you.
discussion-
Thanks,
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Item 5, discussion and possible purchase of a weapons detection system in amount of $39,486.
So just a little bit of information on this. This actually, that amount is 2 systems. I think we kind of had some small conversation about this and how we might utilize those. The reason there's not action here is because there's already a purchase order in the financials that we would approve or not approve that specific PO depending on the discussion that we have here. So that's why it's worded the way, but we wanted to have the discussion before those approvals. So open it up to discussion. Again, this is 2 separate systems that would be utilized at activities, games, also could be utilized in the school entryways for middle school, high school, if with the 2 systems. Have looked into a lot of systems that are similar to this, It's a little bit more than a metal detection system in what it detects and how it detects things, and is also a little less invasive, I would say, in what it looks like and the appearance of it. It actually comes with a sleeve that you can decorate pretty well with Bethany welcome, and so it doesn't necessarily give off the vibe that some would give off, which is one reason why in looking at several devices, we've looked at this device more than any others. Of course, this is a significant investment in cost, and so I understand that as well, but want to open it up to discussion.
I don't know how these work, but does this just alert at the site, like it lights up or something, or does it notify through a computer, or like say when
Yeah.
you're using it here on?
So great question. So it is essentially going to be two, for lack of term, terminals that someone would walk through in about a 3-foot width, and they would be green at the top. And if someone were to walk through with what it detects as a weapon of what they call mass casualty, the light would flash red and alert with a sound, but it's right there. So you would have personnel located, security personnel located right at that spot as well. So if it did detect, you would just pull that individual aside and start, asking questions, having a conversation about what that might be. Yeah.
And so we would need 2 people. For instance, if we had one at the high school and one at the middle school, we would need to have a security person posted at each one when the kids come in.
Yeah, and the way we currently greet every day in the morning, we have an administrator, a principal, assistant principal at each of those entry points greeting kids every day, so that part of it would be pretty seamless. And if one of them couldn't be there on a given day, we just have somebody fill in during that time. So.
Then I think we discussed they're portable.
Correct. This includes, they come with a standard base that actually has suction, but we know in our facilities, out at the football field in particular, it's gravel, and so this price also comes with a base that is wider and plastic that you attach to the bottom of it, that is made for surfaces that are a little bit uneven like that. And the whole thing is 25 pounds, so it can be carried one in each hand. It would be very, very easy, and again, this was a lot of the reason for the selection of this one was it would be very easy to move from an entryway to a gym, an entryway to the field for an evening, and more so than many of the other systems that we looked at. And there are really just only a few that are as portable as this one to begin with. And this one, we also know there are some surrounding districts that utilize this system and have for about 1.5 years now, and have spoken very highly of the results that they've seen and not having issues with the systems in general. So.
What about maintenance or repair? Is there anything included with purchase?
So the interesting part about these, the batteries, for example, is one of the things that you would maybe worry about. How often are those going to go out there? They're 18-volt batteries that you can get at Home Depot and purchase really easily. They are about a 12-hour life on the battery, so again, utilizing them off-site would easily meet the need. And if those batteries were to go bad, they would easily be replaced just going to Home Depot, which depending on other places, if you have to order a battery, and now this is going to take who knows how long, and so we like that aspect of it. I couldn't tell you, if I'm being honest, offhand what the warranty is and how many years the warranty is off the top of my head,
but there is one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know a lot of the kids these days carry metal water bottles, and so is that something that it would have issues with?
Yeah, great question. So we went, Officer Holcomb and I went to Putnam City again because they have this system when we were looking at it, and we ran several tests through the system. One was with his firearm, detected, took the firearm off, but kept some other items like his radio, didn't pick up on that, put the firearm back on, detected again. We then tried like a Yeti cup just to try it, did not detect it. And so there were several tests that we ran on common keys, were another one that we ran, and got pretty significant amount of keys. So you would think like maybe a large amount of keys would alert. It did not alert large sets of keys. I know there are some settings that you can also set within the system itself, so you can make it more sensitive or make it less sensitive. So you find that sweet spot because you can set it to where it might pick up on some of those items more so. But the settings that we trialed with were appropriate settings and identified the items we wouldn't want it to identify, or didn't identify those items, and did identify the items that we would be worried about. So it passed those tests as we played around with them at Putnam City next week. So.
I know that Friday night, the football game, first of all, thank you for bringing something like this to us. Certainly security of our patrons, our students is one of the biggest things that we need to make sure we take care of. In going to the football game on Friday night, I was welcomed to the funnel system with someone that was very loud about, hey, get ready, you're getting ready, we're getting ready to check purses, check things like that, which is outstanding. I know that at every event we're not going to have a police officer though, unless we are, I don't know.
We are looking at all events, and I would tell you you're correct. We're not looking at every single event at all levels, but we are increasing some areas that we have not had security or police officers in the past, and we are adding at least one in some of those events that we have not had some in the past.
I did see a number of POs for security that is on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah.
So in that event where we don't have a police officer, someone walks through the detectors with a gun. Now what do? We don't have a police officer there. They're used to handling those types of things. What do we do at that point?
Yeah, I think we would have to identify and narrow down more what events and where we wanted to have these. My recommendation would be that if we felt like we needed to have these, we probably also would need to have security at that event. Because I think if you're saying you need to have it, let's just say a basketball game, or let's say a volleyball game where maybe we have not always had security at one of those events. If we are now saying, we think probably with the number of people at those events, we probably need to have this, I think we'd also say we need to have security there. Because I think you're right, it could be very tricky even if you had an administrator or principal. Obviously, if you're detecting somebody with a weapon, a firearm, that principal is not going to have a firearm on them, and now you've got a confrontation possibly. That would not be a good situation. So I think as we identify where do we need to have these, we feel like we need that added security. I think we'd also be identifying we need to have a security personnel at that location. Yeah, it's a great point. The only exception to that would be before school at the entryways there. But I think also having our resource officer readily available or in proximity would be ideal too. Yeah, it's a great question.
Now, in regards to payment for these, are we looking these out of general fund? Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Another great question. So the State Department has released a grant that is a 3-year consecutive grant. You may have seen something about this. It equates to about $92,000 per year for 3 consecutive years. And our first thought would be it's created specifically for things like this, for resource officers, which we already have, but in addition to other things that any school or school district might identify, this would help us be more secure in our district, and I think this fits that category very well. And we know we're going to have funding for 3 consecutive years, so right now we're looking at a lot of different things throughout the district that will also utilize those funds, but I think this also would fall in line with that and be utilized with some of those funds that we have access to.
And thank you for bringing that up, because the Department of Education does provide a lot of fantastic grants and things like that the general public doesn't know about, or we don't always talk about. They provide a lot of free software to schools. There's a lot of things they do that just doesn't get talked about. So thank you for sharing that with us. I do look forward to maybe laying out a plan how we're going to spend that $92,000 or whatever it is annually to just talk about some other things that that we're going to make sure that we keep our students safe here at the school.
I might be able to provide you with some information. So Officer Holcomb, our resource officer, is currently working on some of those. He's reviewing some areas in the district, not to get too specific, some areas in the district that we feel like could have better security around those areas. There's some fencing that also is specifically noted in these types of grants that we're looking at right now to see if adding fencing in certain places throughout the district might limit access to and from the school. There's other talks about our radio system that we utilize. Right now we use a very basic radio system, and if you're at the high school around the parking lot area, you may not be heard by administration or beyond, and we've identified that that's hit or miss, and so he's currently looking at a system that would shore that up a little bit, where we might be able to hear radios across a much greater distance and not have to worry about did someone hear. And I will tell you that's a great thing to look at, because it is people will be cutting out on the radios and things like that. So we have kind of this package of things that we're looking at for this year that we can share with you. In fact, we had that conversation just yesterday and today about kind of getting all of this on paper so we can see the grand scope of what we're looking at. And once we have that, we'll share that with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, this isn't an action item, so, right?
Correct.
So, item 6, consent agenda. I think the first item was the minutes from the last meeting. Anybody have anything on that? And adoption of the budget.
I just want to say real quick, Mr. Jaggers, you had asked me about the large significant difference in the expenditures for transportation, and I did confirm that it was because we purchased some buses and we obviously won't be expending that much that year. So I just wanted to get back to you on that, because I did double check that number to make sure that was correct.
Thank you.
And then Ms. Palmer, you had asked about the other outlays and why we had a significant increase there. And I went back to see if I had any other notes on that, and we had in previous years spent a significant more amount in that area, so I wanted to add a little more there, plus also provide a little more cushion for us if we needed something. So.
Thank you.
And then financial reports. So I'm gonna start with the activity fund. Our activity fund looks pretty good. We have an ending balance of $853,870.60. So we have a lot of money coming in, which is really good, and we're using it for our activities as we should. Any questions for me about the activity fund? Okay. The next page kind of shows some of our collections, and our collections are up a little bit from last year. So part of that is we had a little bit more federal money that came in at the beginning of the year from last year. I do want to draw your attention, I have a mistake on here for line 3210, the foundation and incentive. A 0 got left off, I believe, and it's actually 2 million, not 200,000, so that's a big difference. And I caught that this afternoon, so I apologize.
Dr. Jackson, real quick,
Yes.
just so, I'm going to manually follow along, but,
Yeah.
You have to click the.
okay, which one do we need to click?
Okay, it's the one beside.
The
it
PDF?
says, fiscal year monthly working general fund, and it'll open a PDF file. It's not one that'll open inside.
There.
On that one there, budget.
And we're on the working general fund revenue.
Yeah, but it opens outside of the,
Yeah.
rather than the other one opened inside, I don't know what the
Okay, so
difference
that was the activity fund, so that must have been.
Oh, it's because it,
So I found if you, like, once you get into it, if you just, like this, you can
not
exit
that
it.
one.
Oh, you're not,
We're going, because
Oh,
we're
I
in
got
this
you.
one.
okay.
So this is a working fiscal year 24 monthly
Oh, wait a
working.
minute, maybe if I do it here.
Right here.
Maybe that's what's
She's in,
wrong.
she's in, financials right
Okay,
now.
so right
Yeah,
now,
I'd
yeah.
still open it.
So here. Okay.
So I'm following
This
you.
one.
Okay.
I'm following
And you can
That's
click
the
this.
same thing.
this
It's the same
button
thing,
here.
right,
Yeah.
so I do
Yeah,
a
that's where I was
PDF.
at, okay.
Yeah, and then if you,
So-
like, you just exit here, it goes back
Yes.
to all of them.
Oh, here he
Yeah.
goes, yes.
Yeah, I'm
Here.
going rogue.
Yeah, I was over on the wrong file.
Let's just click it. That's
Yeah, he already did, so I'm following
Okay.
you.
I just clicked it,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sorry about that.
Okay.
Oh, yes, we're learning.
All right. So just in general, we're having a lot of collections come in. It looks really good. We're ahead from last year. And like I said, some of that is because we've had some more federal money from the previous fiscal year that came in August. Right now, we're looking at a cash balance of 6.1 million, which is really good. Do you guys have any questions for me about the collections that have come in? Next, we have the purchase orders, and if there are any purchase orders that you have a question about, I will be happy to answer those.
Seem to be a lot.
There are a lot. But really, we're really doing good. We're kind of at the same place, a very similar place as last year in terms of expenditures. It does seem like a lot, but we're up and moving and operating, so.
There was a, Project 628, can you remind me what that is? Cause there were
Yes.
a lot of things.
Project 628 is ESSER special education funding.
Okay.
So, we did put in a lot of our purchase, so here's another reason we do have a lot of purchase orders in place. For ESSER 2, those funds had to be encumbered by September 30th, so we had to have all the purchase orders in place by September 30th, so there is some more because of that, and that includes the ESSER special education funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Items 345 and 46, I made mention of seeing these POs. Are these, what's the term on these? Is this for?
Okay, so this is a blanket purchase order. I have
Okay.
nothing to go on from the previous year, cause we
We haven't done
didn't, we've added some security, you know, we just had, Mr. Holcomb
Mhm.
and one additional security person, and we've added a couple. So I put in a blanket PO of $2,000. We pay them around $150 a game. And so I don't intend to expend a full $2,000, I don't think at this point. But this was just to get us started
Okay.
and have it placed, if that makes sense.
So I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
the cost involved with security. So you're looking at
Yeah.
approximately $150
Per.
per event.
Per person.
Excuse me, per person.
Per person, yes.
person.
So is that
Yes.
3 people? Like
It's about 50 an
Officer
hour,
Holcomb
right?
and then 2 others?
It's, I think it's $35 an
Okay.
hour,
Yeah.
yeah.
Per person.
Cause we're looking at around, for football games, we're looking around 4 to 5 hours.
And it's
So-
usually 4 people at football games right now.
Yes.
I'll also, note that, $35 an hour is, a discount. I mean,
That
it's a
is-
deal.
Yeah,
that
it's a
is
great deal.
Compared to what, the going rate is for security,
Yes.
right now. So we appreciate those that do it. And a lot of them have connections and ties, to our district, but we certainly appreciate their willingness to.
Are these expenses something that can be as part of that grant? Are they?
Go ahead.
Yes, they are,
Okay.
they are.
In the event we do-
Since it's something that we added this year, so we can't supplant, it has to be something new, and because it's something new that we have added, we can use those funds for that if we choose to do that.
Okay.
Right now, those funds are not coming from the grant at this point, but we may move some things around. But we do have the ability to use those funds for that.
On item 331, it shows that it's a copier lease ending contract. Is that just for one of our copiers? Are we moving all of them to the same contract? What's
This is
the
from
story on
the
that?
previous school year.
Okay.
And we had some copiers that still had a bill with them, but the lease had ended and that bill had not been paid. But in order for us to stop accruing interest on that, we are going to have to make that payment, unfortunately. Yeah.
They, whenever we switched over, so we still have some copiers in our buildings that have been sitting there for over a year now. And we did some checking and, how does that work? Well, when you end a lease with a company, a lot of times you're responsible also for ending that lease. So we have some costs associated with that too.
So the lease is now ended.
The lease is ended, yeah.
And this is hopefully
And-
to close that out.
And we are sending the copiers
Great.
back. They're leaving.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic.
On 362, the overseeding for the athletic fields, do we do that once a year or twice a year?
I believe when I spoke to Mr. Arthur that it was once a year,
Okay.
but I could be wrong on that, but I believe when I communicated with him, it was just once a year. But I can double check on that.
Okay.
I think we order enough to do it in the spring too. We may,
Oh, okay, just the big.
we have enough that we just save, I think, for the spring too, I think.
Okay.
We order it once, but we do it twice.
Right. All right, you talk to David Stiles about it.
And does that include like fertilizer and stuff like that?
No.
Okay.
No,
No.
it's just the seed.
Just the seed.
Mhm.
Because that does all three of them? I know it does
It
the
does.
football/soccer.
Yeah, football /
And
soccer,
baseball?
baseball.
Baseball. I
Yeah.
don't think
We don't do
We don't do
softball.
softball. Yeah, it's football and soccer and baseball.
Right.
On item, let's see, what is that? The office furniture for 6533. I'm sorry, it's just two below that, but I can't get over and see what that PO number was.
364.
For 364 for Stowe's. What office is that for?
So that is for my office. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's for my office.
I like that.
Couple things with that. The office in general was just a little bit dark feeling. Just lighten it up a little bit. Also, one of the things we're doing and will continue to do is what we're calling cabinet meeting, which involves everyone from central office coming together at least once a month and meeting. Well, that's more than 8 people, and right now our conference table only sits 8. And so this is new conference table, new desk, new bookshelf back there, but also just lightening it up a little bit in there, and so it's part of that.
It was due for a refresh.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
On 367 and 368, those are both iPads with cell service, but the vendor are 2 separate vendors.
Yes, I can explain that.
Okay.
So when I was going to purchase it, because we were getting cell service, it's gonna be used for the letting out of school for the elementary school.
Okay.
I didn't know if they would let us charge our AT&T account or if we would have to use a credit card. So I had to put 2 purchase orders in, and I didn't get around to closing the one that we didn't use.
Oh, okay.
And I can also tell you that I overestimated it, only ended up being $1,000, and so we'll get some of that closed out. But it is a duplicate because I didn't know which vendor we would have
Yeah.
to go with on that, so.
Okay.
Might draw your attention to 422. It says OSSBA policy book review. One of the things that everything that we do is based off of our policy book, as you know. And as I compare our policy book with other districts' policy books, every district's going to be different, have some unique things to it. But what this will do is allow OSSBA to do a very comprehensive review of our overall policies. For example, when we look at things like student suspension and our most recent update, and one was 2004, another 2011. And that's just concerning to me that some of our policies date back a long time, and they may be perfectly fine, but I would like to have someone tell us, yes, we are up to date on these things. We do have a service right now that, as you know, and we have some in here today, that OSSBA will send us, hey, here's some language you need to change based on recent laws, and that's a great service, and I think it will continue to keep us up to date. My fear, and something I would just like to be assured of, is that our current policy that we have in place is up to date, going back to many, many years in the past. And I know there are a lot of documents that we utilize that are not in our policy book for some reason. Another thing this does is it takes our policy book and puts it in a digital format, more so than what we have right now. You'll notice when on our website, it's a scanned document. It puts it in a digital format, which will be much easier for people to utilize as they come to our website and want to review certain
I can
things.
tell you, 2011 was our last major, and it was done by Center for Ed Law.
There you
And I know they've done a few updates since then. We were they were doing our policy book, but I know I offers the service too, so.
go. Yeah.
But it's definitely, I'm pretty sure that's the last time we did the major, go through everything, so it's due, yeah.
So that would be my recommendation.
I think we were just getting with law changed right now.
Right, right. And we'll continue to get that as well, but that does come with like 100 policy changes if needed, within that too, so.
Is that a 1-year subscription, or is that
Well,
just for the project
Just the
itself?
review.
Yeah, just the
Okay.
overall review,
Okay.
and,
Great.
yeah.
On item 374, bus repair and maintenance, what happened?
Let me get back to 374.
Sorry.
This was, I believe, we've had several repairs. I believe this was the electrical on, one of the, people movers. So we had an electrical fire in one of them, or an electrical, something took place. It was not good. We had to send it to Midwest Bus, and it was very expensive to fix.
Wow, is that covered on insurance at all?
I haven't looked. I will look into that. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
That'd be
It's
awesome.
possible.
And Dr. Jasper, is this just one thing, or is this several things wrapped into one?
It will be, no, I think this one in particular is one thing.
One thing, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I know this is either the electrical issue or there was an air conditioning issue. I'm sorry, I cannot remember, but it was a major issue. I'm pretty sure it's the electrical issue.
Was this with the people mover?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a lot of things going on with it. If it was the people mover, I think
Yeah,
it's
it
right.
was- It was
a lot of
not
things
in
going on.
good shape. Yeah.
Okay.
To the point of, we also recognize that that's probably, within our transportation fleet, that's probably our next biggest need, is additional or replacing people movers. We're gonna look at some more buses this year, but that will get our fleet up to about 2021 being the old, which is great. But our people movers need some updating, so that'll be a future need.
Because they don't require a CDL to be driven,
Correct.
is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
And what's the max those can hold, each one,
Usually 15, 14 to 15.
legally?
Yeah, 14 to 15.
My stuff,
Yeah.
if you want, but,
Okay, so I have a lot of questions. Item 375, the admin uniforms and embroidery. That's
Yes.
interesting.
So this is for child nutrition. It's not going to be $1,000, but at the time when I called them, I didn't have the quote, but I knew I wanted to get this purchase order in on this
Yeah.
board meeting. It's going to be about $300, and it's for the child nutrition workers to be able to have a shirt that has the Bethany logo on it,
Yeah.
and it's coming from child nutrition funds.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
Yeah, so that we can identify that they are,
Mhm.
they're working with our students, and they're our child
Yeah,
nutrition team.
that's excellent.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to ask me. There's a lot
Yeah,
of things on this
there.
one, so.
And I will say, also, this is a good thing. There are several like classroom supplies things. So previously, our teachers didn't really know how to put in purchase orders for the foundation grants. And so we created a video for them and sent out, and we've helped them get their logins to Trend so that they would be able to submit purchase orders and be able to use the $75 classroom grants from the foundation, which is a very good thing.
That was my thought when I saw this big long list. I thought,
Yeah.
how great that we have a lot going on and there are a lot of new things that are
Yes.
happening, and
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. You see a lot of classroom supplies, and we're I had talked to the foundation early on, and they were worried that teachers were not spending that money, and so we have worked to really make sure that that's getting spent this year. So you do see a lot of extra purchase orders, because they each have one.
And I'll brag on Dr. Jasper. The video she's talking about, I mean, it's been great communication with the staff of the district. Not just, hey, we're gonna do something new, good luck. I mean, great videos, step-by-step instructions on how to do it all, so she's been great at communicating those things
That's
as well.
awesome. And then 429, it's the Apogee, the website development and communication. I think there's something in here later to talk about that as well.
There is.
But how much is like the website development versus like all the
Yeah.
communication stuff is?
Right. Okay, so I'll break that. I'm gonna go ahead and just tell you the whole thing right now. Is that okay? Before we get to the contract later on. So I'm gonna start with what we currently purchase. So we currently pay for a website. We currently pay for class tag to be able to communicate with families out at the elementary. We were looking at purchasing class tag for the middle school and high school. We pay for extra to Infinite Campus to be able to use their communication tool, which isn't that great. And that all adds up to about $15,000 or $16,000. And we have all these different platforms that we're using to try to accomplish the communication goal and be able to present information to our stakeholders. So we have looked at Apogee. It is a communication tool. It does a lot of different things. So it'll do our website. It will also, they'll create an app for us that we can send out to our families that will have embedded in the app will be the communication, the push notifications that we can send out to families. It'll have the lunch menu. It'll have the full functioning website. They'll be able to access our news feeds, so they will help us get it connected to a social media platform like an Instagram page for us and a Facebook page, so that we're able to communicate with stakeholders in that way. And one of the big things in terms of adding the social media component is to be able to thank people, because we've had a lot of donations come in. We have our foundation, we've had people donate concrete, and it's nice to be able to present that out and say thank you on social media, so that a lot of people can say that. So we're adding that component through Apogee, and also doing all the different communications. We can do two-way communication and set up rooms, so we take away the cost of paying a subscription for Remind, and then it also links to Infinite Campus, and we're able to send out the one-way communication and the robocalls when we need to. So we're combining all of that. There was a cost, we did a little bit of horse trading, so it was gonna be $17,000 to develop it, and I laid out all of our costs that we've already, or we might get by all these other things, or things we've already paid, and we got that down. They gave us a $10,000 discount. So we're having a $7,000 creation fee, and then the $16,000 that you see on this purchase order, that's what's gonna cost us this year to develop and to start it and launch it on January 1st if we want to. We probably won't launch it on January 1st because we're getting used to all these different things, but we will work on it and get it perfected so that it's ready for the coming school year. And so the cost that you see is the amount on that purchase order of $16,800 to develop and to get it running for the spring semester. And when you look at that, it's pretty close to what it's gonna be a little bit more than what we were paying, but we have added things that we get. So the yearly cost, you'll see later on, is like $21,000. But most of the time I'll go back and I'll be like, listen, we can't pay $21,000, we're a Title I school, but that's what they have written down right now. But for this year, the cost is gonna be $16,800. And then you're gonna see later on in the contract, it adds the $21,000 for July 1st next year. but we're not paying that this year, so it'll be like 38 something, so I wanna go ahead and clear that up now, we're not paying $38,000 this year. But that is the long and the short of Apogee and some of the things that it provides to us, so.
So a couple things I'll add to that. One, I don't want to get in a negotiation with Dr. Jasper. But two, you'll think back about some things that we've identified just in a short time. So whenever we send out a message to parents in the community, I have to contact a certain number of people. I think there's like 3 people that I can contact to say, hey, will you send this out? Or I send them an email and then they put that into Infinite Campus to then send out. But if we want that translated, I also have to send that to somebody to translate to then also send out with that. So this is not very efficient, obviously, on how we get information out. And we've seen situations where we've had to send things out quickly that we didn't have someone to translate in time, and now they're getting information they don't understand. Apogee, one of the things it does is it'll translate both text and phone messages, actually, to the language that they prefer to receive it in. So we don't have to take that extra step, we just send it and it's going to translate it for them. Another thing that we've identified is our social media presence, and I know even when I was hired, it was a challenge. Okay, we gotta get this PTO and this PTO and this PTO because we haven't currently owned our own district social media. So we need to change that and make sure we have an avenue to communicate just really, really important things, or like she's saying, celebratory type things that we want to send out. So it's kind of wrapping all of the communication pieces into one and making it much more efficient, to the point of right now, it's just not very efficient how we are able to communicate, and that impacts a lot of things like your branding, and there's something that is called Thrill Share. I mean, you could be at a football game and fans going crazy, you could take a little short picture or video and post that. So hey, Bethany Broncos, bringing down the house at this football game or something like that, and you could just have some fun with things like that. So good for branding as well.
And could that be used for sports, like for coaches as well?
Yes, that's the intention. So instead of the rooms component, instead of us doing something like Remind, we would set up the rooms that would have the classes for like the football team, and then that's how coaches would communicate, and it's much more censored and monitored. That's how they can communicate with parents, but also communicate with students' information. Yeah.
That's good, because I'm on Remind and
Yeah.
a few others, depending on who is coaching what.
Yeah, we're gonna get it
So
all
that'd be
looped
nice.
try to get it all looped into one thing.
Yeah, and as she said, another great thing about that is we have access to all of that communication. So, there may be times where we need to see what was sent out or what is going out, and we would have access to be able to do that as administrators, which is great.
And Infinite Campus is gonna be part of that?
The only thing that Infinite Campus is a part of is ThrillShare integrates into Infinite Campus to get the contact information, so like the phone numbers and the email addresses of our families, so that we can communicate with them.
But it's not gonna be included in the app, so we'd still need to go to.
No, you don't have to go to Infinite Campus. You do it. It does fully integrate. It does. I didn't answer your question well. It fully integrates in, and we get the numbers and the email addresses and everything, and we can still send the message from ThrillShare, the Apogee app, and everything. We don't have to send it from Infinite Campus anymore. Yeah.
Are you talking about Parent Portal at all as well?
I'm talking about
Checking
Parent
grades
Portal.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's-
within this, there's all kinds of ways to link important information. She mentioned the menu
Yeah.
before, so instead of going to the website and having to find it, there would be a place that's live that you could just see what's the menu for today. I would guess, and based on everything I've heard, that would be another thing that would be on that app that you could click, and you're in your Parent Portal. Because I think you can pretty much link what you want parents to have access to.
Oh, I say, I can link
Website,
to it,
menu.
and then it'll take me to it.
That's
Yes.
right,
I see.
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just keep asking me. If I'm not answering the right
Well, I
question,
mean,
just get after
Infinite,
me.
it used to be Infinite Campus.
No, that's right, it's the Infinite
But
Campus
it's
Parent Portal.
Parent Portal now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You go, ask. How about that?
Time.
We'll have her check on it.
Just drink on just a little,
It's good to have fun.
A little background music for us.
Yeah.
summary report. The only thing that I'm gonna draw your attention to specifically on the function summary report is the building fund. And I want to explain, when you look at the building fund, it's showing a negative $122,000. The reason for that is in the spring, we get projected appropriations from the auditor, and the auditor gave us a pretty low appropriation amount, and we've had a lot of construction projects going on. We are not in the negative. It's just that until you approve the budget tonight, I can't go in and put the correct appropriation. So we are just fine. We have plenty of money, but the way it is right now, it doesn't look that way. But we are just fine. I promise. And that is all that I have, unless you guys have something else on the function summary report.
I just want to draw your attention really quick too, if you notice on that one where it says superintendent comments. Do you see that?
No?
I do want to just, if you are going to start using that a lot, that is one of the features that board members and superintendents really like. So if you go back to the agenda item right here.
I'm following, so Les is driving. Right here?
Yeah, if you go to the agenda item, you'll be able to see underneath. So what item was that? Yeah, that one.
16.
So you see
There it is.
superintendent comments.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, I see
Oh,
that,
yeah.
okay,
So
yeah.
I put in there for you all when you were reviewing
Yes.
this weekend. I didn't
Great.
want you to
I
be
saw it.
alarmed. So, because negatives always alarm me.
Well, we can change that box to make
Yeah.
board member comments or board member extra information. Those are, it's not part of the agenda or the minutes, it's just extra stuff that only you guys see. So that's
Great.
a really great feature to use that a lot of districts love, and it keeps you guys from making phone calls and
Mhm.
save you guys time. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
great. And then activity fund additions, huh? I have a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, item number 6.
Roll call vote. Oh, I need a
Second.
second. There you
Second.
go. Now
Is it
we'll-
not part of the
Yeah, it's-
consent
getting
agenda?
ahead.
Jaggers.
Wait,
Well,
these are, we're not gonna go over these then, is what you're saying, right?
I was asking if anybody had any questions over them.
Okay, on the activities?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to have an
Yeah, I
understanding of
understand.
where we
Takes
are
time to
in the
click on it,
process
yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
um,
Yeah, I kind of moved on. No, I'm still. Okay. Roll call.
Oh, wait a minute, is that, are we doing the whole consent agenda?
Yeah, you do it all at once.
Well, we didn't talk about number 7, which I have.
No, 7's
No, no,
not a
it's-
I'm just doing
consent.
6.
Oh, it is.
all-
Oh, okay, yeah,
Six
just six.
sub-items.
I got you, okay.
Did you get?
Jaggers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstead.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Okay.
Item 7, discussion possible action to approve the district's capacity of students in each grade at each site. Presented.
So one thing you'll notice on this, pre-K had one spot available. That has since been filled. We had a student who left an opening. We were able to get that filled this past week before this was created. Another thing you'll notice is the numbers have been adjusted significantly, especially in middle school. 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Those numbers have been adjusted currently based on the current transfer trends and our high school numbers. I went ahead and set those capacities because as the law is written currently, this would be one way to reduce the number of students that we have in the high school when we get additional transfers in our high school, in our 9th grade specifically. So I wanted to set these numbers as they are to ensure that we didn't add any additional students, which we shouldn't because of the numbers the way they are. But I'll also make note that we are currently in conversations with legislators about certain transfer laws that we would like to see changed, and pretty optimistic about some of those conversations that we're having. But again, these transfer capacities are adjusted a little bit. We would have had middle school, for example, at around 120, 123-ish, somewhere around there. Actually, this year they were a little lower. They're like 118, around those numbers. And so we lowered those down to, if nothing changes in the law, these might be the numbers we would need to maintain to account for an influx of transfers in ninth grade that we're currently seeing on a trend, so.
So overall, included in the children's center, it's reducing it 135.
Yeah, if you calculated, are you basing that number on the current numbers versus
Total.
the capacity?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it won't in practice actually reduce those numbers,
Right,
but in theory over time it would.
Could.
Over year by year would steadily lower those
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah.
Yeah. And we can adjust those capacities at any point each quarter, and may need to if things change. So this is kind of, if nothing were to change, and if we needed to start trying to plan for that influx, this would be a way to do that. Now, what we would note on this is that every year, so when third grade goes to fourth grade, we have typically added 10 students to that number. It would not add those 10 students in year one, then it would not add 10 more students in year two, year three, and so in the end, you could end up with 70 less students in our district overall, which is something we would have to also figure out and be as efficient as possible. Again, hopefully, none of that will be necessary if we can, have good conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, that's what I was wondering, have we looked at what, if we get to that 1652, what that financial number would look like versus where we're at?
Yeah, Dr. Jasper and I have had conversations about, at some point, getting past a lot of the transition things, beginning to look at that impact year by year. So year one, what would that impact be? Year two, and really determining, is that possible? Another thing that we're going to be looking at is our FTE to student ratio at each school site, to see how efficient we are at each school site, to make sure that those things all balance out. And of course, if they don't, then we have to figure out how to make those numbers work, being higher at the high school, which is not ideal. I mean, I think when you look at 167 students in the freshman class, that's not our ideal number. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to hire staff to meet that number. I would rather figure out how efficient we're being to get that number down and then be efficient with that number. So this is kind of a start to that goal of, this is what it may have to look like to do that. Otherwise, we're just hiring staff to fill higher and higher numbers. But we know in Bethany, we're going to hit a point where you cannot go any higher. And this is one of the challenges that we're talking to legislators about, to the point of, at some point, we may have to make some drastic decisions on our transfers when we're being forced to bring in certain transfers. So, essentially, this doesn't change anything for this year. We weren't going to have capacity before. We won't have capacity after. It just kind of gives you an idea of what it might look like as we continue to move forward.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve item 7 as presented.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wellsted.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 8, discussion and possible action to approve or not approve the following board policy revisions, the table of contents, and BH sexual harassment.
Very good. So the policy itself added some language to define what a complainant is, and added that it is someone who is alleged to be a victim rather than someone who has filed a complaint. So they don't have to actually file a complaint to be a complainant. That was one significant change in language. It also added a section to allow for an emergency removal of an employee if it's determined that they are deemed an immediate threat. So it just makes sense, but that's what's added in the policy. And then, of course, the table of contents to match. And that is from OSSB.
Motion to approve item 8.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstead.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 9, discussion and possible action to approve First National Bank of Omaha as the purchasing card vendor for Bethany Public Schools.
Okay, I'll talk about this a little bit. So it was my intention to bring you 3 different options to look at, but I reached out to 3 different banks. I talked to Bank of Oklahoma, I talked to Bank First, and I talked to Bank of Omaha. The other 2 kind of knocked themselves out of the running just by default. So Bank of Oklahoma only really wanted to do business with us if we were gonna bring some of our banking to Bank of Oklahoma, which we're gonna stick with Bethany. Bank First, in order to start earning rewards, you have to have you have to spend $1 million. We'll probably spend $1 million, but it's our first year and it just wasn't the best option. Bank of Omaha allows us to earn 1 point per every dollar spent. So we're just immediately when we start spending, we're getting rewards to put that towards miles to send people to professional development or to get just a reimbursement of a few $1,000s. And so for that reason, the rewards are automatic, and I felt that I would present it to you because that's the best option for us. Now I'll tell you why I feel like we need a purchasing card vendor. Purchasing cards, it'll be a Visa card, and what that will enable us to do, they're not tied to our bank account. It's like having a credit card is the best way I can explain it to you, but we're able to go in and put money on the cards. So for our coaches, we're able to order a card for every single coach, and when they put in a purchase order, we're able to go and load the amount of money for their purchase order on it. And it's a safety situation. So currently, right now, our practice is our coaches, when they're going somewhere, they put in a purchase order to the bank, and we go and we get them cash to like pay for student meals or things like that when they're going out and away. And so when they're gone, and if all they've got is cash and it gets stolen, well, how are we gonna feed the kids? The money's gone. So you've got that issue. I have had an issue in the past. When I came from Shawnee, we had the tornado. We had a group of students doing an esports tournament. The storm was coming through. We were able to call ahead. The esports team coach had a P card. We got on, we loaded her P card, and we held them up and put them in a hotel because there was no coming back to Shawnee and it just wasn't safe. So anywhere our kids are and their sponsor is with their card, we're able to get them funds, which is a safety thing. And so I highly recommend us having a purchasing card system for safety, and because we don't want them carrying around a lot of cash. That's just really not a best practice. So any questions for me about that?
Thank
Motion to
you for your
approve.
work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Motion to approve item 9.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstead.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 10, discussion and possible action on the BPS, the designation of administrators, school counselors, and school psychologists to serve as administrative representatives for the individualized education program meetings for 23-24 school year.
So that just, the State Department says that the LEA has to designate who can sit in as administrative reps during those meetings, and so we as a district feel like those are the best people to be able to sit in that role.
Motion to approve item 10.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstead.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 11, discussion and possible action to approve the district's 23-24 all-school musical as Once Upon a Mattress by Rogers, Bear, and Thompson.
One note I'll make about this, talked to Ms. Fine, just some minor adjustments to the script, just to make sure that most of our families would feel like it's appropriate for pre-K through 12 students. If we're gonna call it all-school musical, we want it to be comfortable for all students. And so there are some slight adjustments to the script, so if you have any questions about once upon a mattress or anything within that script, feel free to reach out and I'll tell you some of the changes we've made, but we feel like the changes, will make it appropriate for all levels, pre-K through 12, which I think it should be if it's called the All-School Musicals.
I have a question about
Uh-huh.
it. So what's it about? Is it
Um,
Princess and the Pea?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's a different kind of, I figured that with the
Mhm.
name, but wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Motion to approve item 11?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Olsted.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 12, discussion of possible action to approve or not approve the following contracts agreements for fiscal year 24. A, offer fund rental agreement in the amount of $900. B, Aptigee Communication Services in the amount of $16,890. C, Canadian Valley Transport Contract in the amount of $39,200. D, K&K Insurance for Camp Klassen in the amount of $250. E, Red Rover Technologies, absence, time, hiring, annual subscription in the amount of $12,400. F, Steam Booth Collaboration Agreement. G, the Palace Event Center Contract Correction for Prom on April 19th, 2024, the amount of $2,300. H, GRVTY Group Fall Ball DJ Contract in the amount of $525.
Dr. Jasper, will you talk about Red Rover a little bit specifically? I know we haven't had as many conversations about that one in particular. I think it's an important one here.
Yeah, so we have worked with Red Rover to develop a contract with them for your approval. So we don't currently have the way we track absence and time is on paper with the timesheets, and then that's entered in at the end of every month, the time that's been taken. Also, as a part of our absence tracking system, we don't have a sub-finding system. And so when we have a lot of teachers out, or just a few teachers out, our administrative assistants and our principals are having to call in the evening. If they find out at 10 o'clock at night that someone's got the flu, they have to start calling subs and trying to get a sub to fill at 10 o'clock at night. And so this, number one, it helps us track our absences a little bit better. People can go in, but also at the same time as that, it will send an automated message to all the subs that we have in our system and notify them of a job. It'll send them a text message and they can accept the job through a text message. And so we're able to automate our sub-finding ability and hopefully fill our subs at a higher rate than we have been. And we're also doing a little bit of a push to get some more subs on the list. But so for that purpose, adding that will be really helpful. It also will allow us to track time electronically. So we have a lot of tutors coming in. They can just get on their phone on the app, and when they get here, check in, check out. For people who don't have a smartphone with the app, if they're checking in, checking out, we can have a Chromebook available. We'll have a Chromebook available that we already own, and they can just log in or time it, clock in and clock out. And so that helps us kind of automate our tracking of time. And we're also able to put in all of the function and object codes in terms of coding for accounting purposes, so that's all taken care of. And we can start tracking the costs of subs, and we can start tracking the cost of like our own teachers covering classes a little bit better. And so that's rolled in there. And then also the hiring component. Currently we have talent ed. This was a piece, we were really looking at the absence and time piece. They talked to us that they have created a hiring piece, and it offers a little more automation of that system and a little bit more options and features for us to be able to push out information about open positions that we have. So we added that piece. I will tell you that we got $2,000 taken off of this price, and so that'll cover the price that we see right there is with the $2,000 taken off, and that will about cover, I think it'll about cover the hiring piece of it, the discount that we were able to get. And so we're gonna try that hiring piece. Is there anything that I left out?
No, I know there might be some teachers listening, and they'll be interested to know that We'll still have the option for teachers to select subs that they prefer. They can even select a sub that they want the job to be offered to first. It will hold that job for a percentage of time up to the job being filled, and then if those people that they've identified have not filled it by that time, it'll open it up to others. So it still allows teachers the flexibility to identify people they're most comfortable in working with. Also allows them to upload sub-plans into the system. So just a much more, again, efficient way to manage our subs. And ultimately, you know, it's just not a good system for our administrative assistants to be texting, calling at hours. If I'm being honest, they're not getting paid to do that. And so, in addition, we hope it will open the door to more subs being able to apply through the system, and possibly open the door to more subs. If other districts are using a similar system, they'll be familiar with it, and we may be able to entice some to also add on to our district as well. So it's gonna do a lot of things with us. Just add a note on our hiring system. Currently, with Talent Ed, which we use, when they put in a reference, it automatically notifies that reference that they've put in for a job. But that's a problem for somebody who doesn't want their current employer to know that they're applying for the job, and there's no way to fix that. And so that was why we kind of added that to it. We had identified that problem early on, so this is just a way to fix that problem and wrap it all into one system.
Does the hiring piece link to our website or whatever the function is where they can fill out the application?
Yes, so I just asked the person about this week, and I believe we are going to be able to integrate it into our website. So I'm still working on it, but that's one of the pieces that I've been talking to them about this week. So actually it was the end of last week. I'm losing track of the days.
On C, the Canadian Valley Transportation Contract, 2 questions on that.
Okay.
Is that higher than usual? And then also, how many students do we have using that service? Do you know?
I cannot answer the number of students.
Okay.
I haven't dug deep enough in to know the number of students. I believe when I looked at this, it was about a $1,500 increase from last year, if I'm correct. So, but with the way gas prices are, I'm not surprised by that, and I don't think that that's an overwhelming, increase for that type of service.
And I don't have an exact number on the number of students, but I know it's between 20 and 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would say closer to 30 is what I know.
And that's for transportation there, and then transportation
Let me,
back?
that I don't know. I know that's the total number of students that we have in career tech.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
so whether they all utilize that transportation, I'm not sure. So.
Motion to approve item number 12?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 13, discussion of possible action to approve or not approve the following out-of-town, out-of-state overnight trips. A, honor band participation at the Shortgrass in Elk City, Oklahoma, January 5th through 6th, 2024. Expenses to be paid with band activity fund account. B, honor band participation in OKMEA All-State in Tulsa, Oklahoma, January 17th through the 20th, 2024. Expenses to be paid with band activity fund account. C, high school band trip to Chicago, Illinois, April 25th through the 28th, 2024. Expenses to be paid with band activity fund account. D, the following special services staff: Heather Williams, Amy Ross, Colleen Carson, Eric Butler, and Nikki Bands to attend Oklahoma Transition Institute Conference in Glenpool, Oklahoma, November 13th to the 15th, 2023. Expenses to be paid with Project 613 Special Services Funds. High school baseball trip to Fort Smith, Arkansas, March 8th through 9th, 2024. Expenses to be paid from the activity fund account. Questions on any of it?
Motion to approve item 13.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 14, staff reports. Item 15, executive session. Do I have a motion? Go into executive.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Good job. Hey, I like this stuff.
Yeah. And thank you, Dr. Jasper, for all the many things you've been helping to push out and help us with all that stuff and answering our questions.
Yeah. No, I love answering, so it's good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Awesome. Superintendent's report.
Very good. We've got some extracurricular activities that are kind of coming to a close here at the end of the season. Softball finished with a winning record, 16-15, won the Bethany tournament throughout the season. Unfortunately lost in the regional tournament, but had a great season. High school volleyball continues, and they will be hosting a regional tournament this Thursday. So we're looking forward to seeing their progress in the playoffs. And then the state tournament would be October 12th through 14th, so you may want to mark that on your calendar as well. High school cross country has a couple big meets coming up. They have just a regular meet on the 7th, but then regionals October 21st and October 28th is the state meet. And I think they're excited about some opportunities they may have with some success they've been having this year. High school football continues. Their next game is Classen at Douglas at 7:00 p.m. Some news from the school. Again, excited about kids attending Camp Classen and Camp Earl Harris. Those that will be staying, it's a great tradition, and I'm glad that Ms. Chavez is continuing that tradition. And evidently, they're turning it a little more into glamping, is what I hear, with some of the things Mrs. Chavez is bringing to the table, but I'm sure that'll be great. Want to tell a little story about middle school and their pep assembly. And I talked to a parent, got some permission to share this story, but the pep assembly was great. But the highlight of the pep assembly had to do with a particular student who has come to us new this year. Coming in, there had been some concerns about how this student had been treated at previous schools, just socially having a lot of struggles, maybe to the point of some bullying. And at the assembly, this particular, to the point of this student didn't want to participate in anything, had a lot of trouble. At the assembly, this particular student was involved in the dance-off. Each grade had a representative and completely stole the show. Just owned the moment, and the whole middle school student body went crazy. And I've seen even up to that point how the students have interacted with the student, and talking to the mom, they just have noticed an amazing difference in just a few months of how our students treat other students and the culture that we have. And Mrs. Donnelly has done a great job establishing a culture that, even a student who has had trouble in the past can come in right away and just be welcomed with open arms. And again, it was a great conversation to have with that mother to even get permission to share it, but it's a great indication of the culture that they've established. So Ms. Donnelly, great job with that. And then some upcoming events. We have parent-teacher conferences coming up the 10th, 12th, and 17th, depending on the school. And we want to encourage our parents to participate 100% if possible. It's an important partnership to communicate with the teachers, and so we hope that parents will take advantage of that. Construction, as we saw earlier, should be completed in October. Fall break is October 19th through the 23rd. And again, get your tickets for the foundation auction November 7th. It's our biggest fundraiser for the foundation, and all of the proceeds of that will be going into foundation grants in the classroom. So if you're listening out there, get your tickets and come be a part of a fun night. So that's my report.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.